Welcome to another episode of What Might It Be with Jerry Spinelli and.
Eric Middleton.
So, Eric, show us what we have today.
All right, so here we've got some different types of aloes, and there's some pretty characteristic and obvious damage you can see on this aloe right here, this big kind of tumor or growth that's coming out of it. That's damage that is very characteristic of aloe mites. So aloe mites are little tiny areophid mites that feed on the surface of the aloe and cause these distortions, these kind of tumors to grow. You can see it here on this plant. If we move over to this plant, you can see that there as well, all kinds of bubbles, distortions, those again, the kind of tumor, like cancerous sorts of growths. And then another type of damage that these mites can also cause on this aloe here is a whole bunch of much smaller leaves kind of growing all together, very bunched up, tightly clustered together. That's another sign that is quite indicative of aloe mite damage.
All right, now we want you to slice them up and show us under the microscope.
Yeah, let's take a look. All right, so we're going to take one of these leaves off that has those growths on it. Give it a little slice. You can see it on all sides of the leaf, and we'll take a look under the scope and see if we can't find any mites. So here we can see magnification of the aloe mites underneath the scope, and the one thing here is that you can see the eggs of the aloe mites as well, those kind of football-shaped spheres that are around the mites moving. Here's another shot of the mites. Again, they're this sort of light tannish to whitish color. Some of them have a little bit of brown to them. And also, you'll not only see them moving, but you can see the damage from their feeding. These areas that they have fed on are also raised up, both without the scope and with the scope. Finally, we can see this last color of the aloe mites. Sometimes they're this darkish color, a little bit more blackish compared to the other ones we've seen before. We're not sure why this is, but that's also something you want to keep an eye out for. They can be white or darkish. Now, if you apply treatment, or sometimes the aloe mite populations can collapse on their own, you may find dead aloe mites. So if you apply a treatment, this is probably indicative that it's worked. You can see here dead aloe mites. They kind of look like these deflated balloons, same shape as when they're alive, but much flatter. They can also look a little bit more like kind of stringy ribbons. So if you see things like this, it's indicative that your treatment has worked or that the population has died on its own. So that's what the aloe mites and their damage looks like. You'll be looking for those sort of growths, the offsets, and areas that look bubbly. And then also, if you're looking under the scope, you now know what the mites look like. Elongate, kind of whitish, their eggs are a little bit oval, and sometimes are also a little bit darker. And finally, if you apply treatment, you'll hopefully, if it's worked, be seeing those deflated, sort of balloon-like or ribbon-like remains of the dead mites. Hopefully that's helpful for you, so go out, see if you can't find any of this damage, and see if you can't find any of the aloe mites under a scope as well.